Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, the Middle East is on fire. Israel is under unprecedented attack not from one front, but from multiple directions. Iran and Yemen's Houthi forces have launched a coordinated bombardment that has left the Israeli military scrambling for defense. Explosions light up the night skies, air raid sirens scream across the country, and chaos grips the nation as missiles rain down on strategic installations, bases, and critical infrastructure. In what officials are calling the most intense assault since the beginning of the regional conflict, more than 400 missiles and drones were reportedly fired within hours. The Iron Dome, though intercepting many, is overwhelmed. Videos emerging from Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Ashdod show towering columns of smoke, fireballs lighting the horizon, and civilians rushing into shelters as the ground shakes beneath them. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has officially confirmed its participation in the operation, naming it Operation Sacred Defense, a retaliatory strike meant to punish Israel for recent actions in Gaza and Syria. Simultaneously, Yemen's Houthi movement announced its own campaign, the Storm of Jerusalem, claiming responsibility for several long-range ballistic missiles that struck southern Israel. Military analysts are calling this a turning point, a clear message that Iran's influence has spread far beyond its borders. For months, Tehran had warned that continued Israeli strikes on Gaza and Damascus would not go unanswered. Now, that warning has turned into firepower. Reports from Israeli media indicate massive damage to several military depots near Beersheba and Ashkelon. Initial estimates suggest dozens of vehicles, ammunition warehouses, and fuel tanks have been destroyed. The IDF has declared a state of full mobilization, calling in reserves and repositioning missile defense batteries across the country. But the scale of the assault is testing Israel's limits like never before. According to early intelligence leaks, Iran used a combination of cruise missiles, precision-guided drones, and long-range ballistic systems. Some missiles reportedly penetrated Israeli airspace, undetected, an alarming development that has shocked Israeli defense officials. Analysts warn that this could expose weaknesses in Israel's multi-layered defense system, including the Iron Dome and David's Sling. Meanwhile, the Houthis from Yemen have claimed that they launched at least 20 long-range projectiles toward Eilat and southern Israel, saying it is just the beginning of a wider operation in solidarity with Palestine. Satellite images captured by international observers show large explosions in southern bases believed to house Israeli Air Force aircraft. International reaction has been swift. The United States has condemned the attacks and vowed to support Israel's defense. Washington has ordered the USS Eisenhower and additional naval assets to move closer to the Mediterranean, signaling readiness for potential retaliation. However, across the Arab world, celebrations erupted in some cities, with crowds chanting in support of Iran and Yemen for striking back. After months of Israeli bombardment in Gaza, as dawn breaks over Tel Aviv, the damage becomes clearer. Footage reveals destroyed hangars, burning vehicles, and craters where missiles struck. The Israeli army is currently engaged in emergency search and rescue operations, attempting to locate missing personnel and assess casualties. Early unconfirmed figures suggest dozens of soldiers may have been killed and many more injured. In Gaza, the news was met with cheers and defiance. Hamas spokespersons praised Iran and the Houthis for standing with the resistance, calling the joint attack a sign of a new era of regional unity against Israeli aggression. Palestinian factions see this as proof that the fight for Gaza has now become a fight shared by an entire axis stretching from Tehran to Sana'a, Beirut, and Damascus. The question now haunting Israeli command is simple: how will they respond? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has convened an emergency security meeting, calling the assault an act of war by Iran and its proxies. The Israeli Air Force has reportedly begun retaliatory strikes on targets in Syria and western Iraq, believed to be linked to Iran's logistics networks. Yet, despite the counterattacks, Israeli citizens are voicing growing fear that this may spiral into a full large-scale regional war. On the ground, eyewitnesses describe scenes of destruction unlike anything seen in decades. Hospitals are overwhelmed with casualties, rescue teams are racing through debris, and power outages continue to spread across several southern and central districts. The Israeli Defense Ministry has issued multiple emergency alerts, urging civilians to remain indoors and prepare for further missile waves. At the same time, Iranian media is boasting about the success of the strikes, claiming over 60% of targets were hit with precision. State television in Tehran broadcast dramatic footage of missile launches, accompanied by patriotic music and statements declaring victory against the Zionist occupation. Western analysts are deeply concerned. They say the level of coordination between Iran, Yemen, and possibly Hezbollah marks a dangerous new escalation. The war that began in Gaza has now expanded across the region, drawing in multiple fronts that could easily pull global powers into direct confrontation. In Lebanon, Hezbollah's forces have also increased artillery fire along the northern Israeli border, adding further pressure to Israel's overstretched defenses. The fear now is that the conflict may soon expand into Syria and Iraq territories where Iranian-backed militias are already active. As the world watches, Israel faces perhaps its gravest military crisis in years. Despite its superior technology and global backing, the sheer volume of incoming firepower has left the country vulnerable and exposed. The Iron Dome can only do so much. For every intercepted missile, another seems to slip through, hitting strategic targets and civilian areas alike. Civilians are terrified. Videos on social media show families huddled in shelters, children crying as the roar of explosions echoes outside. In Tel Aviv, emergency services race through smoke-filled streets while fire brigades battle massive blazes in industrial zones. The skyline, once vibrant and modern, now glows red with flames. Diplomatic efforts are already underway to prevent escalation. The United Nations has called for restraint, while European nations are urging all sides to avoid catastrophic miscalculation. But behind closed doors, officials admit that the situation is spiraling out of control. For Iran and Yemen, this operation is being framed as payback not only for Gaza, but also for years of Israeli strikes on regional allies. For Israel, it is a test of endurance and power, one that could redefine its security doctrine for years to come. Experts are warning that the Middle East stands on the brink of a broader conflict that could draw in not only regional powers, but also the world's superpowers, with the U.S. Navy on standby, Russia maintaining its presence in Syria, and China calling for de-escalation. The geopolitical balance is teetering dangerously close to chaos. This is not just another battle. This could be the start of a regional war, one with consequences that reach far beyond the borders of Israel or Iran. The global oil markets are already reacting sharply, with prices surging amid fears of instability. Air traffic across the region has been rerouted, and several embassies have gone into lockdown. As the night deepens, reports continue to flood in more missiles, more explosions, and more uncertainty. The Israeli government is vowing retaliation, but many question whether this might be the moment when the balance of power in the Middle East begins to shift. The coming hours will be critical. The world waits to see if cooler heads will prevail, or if this fiery night will mark the beginning of something far worse, a regional inferno that could engulf millions. Whatever happens next, one thing is certain: the Middle East will never be the same again. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.